big story we're focusing on tonight. In a landmark ruling, the Supreme Court today restricted the use of firecrackers across India, basically saying that only low-emission crackers will be allowed, that too only between 8 and 10 p.m. on festivals like Diwali, Gurpurab, Christmas, etc. This comes after a petition was moved by children in the Supreme Court calling for a complete ban on firecrackers because of the toxic air pollution. The two-judge bench said that we tried to strike a balance as they announced this 2-hour limit for all festivals and weddings. So effectively, there is a complete ban on the manufacture and sale of all fireworks which are high emission. So all existing fireworks, frankly, stand banned. Green or low emission firecrackers will be allowed between 11:55 p.m. and 12:30 a.m. on Christmas and on New Year's Eve. In Delhi, crackers will only be allowed in designated spots. These have to be identified within a week. Only crackers that are within the noise pollution limits that were set by the Supreme Court in a verdict back in July 2005 will be allowed. This also means that laddies or those chain firecrackers are going to be banned, which I'm personally cheering. I hope my neighbor is listening. Crackers cannot be sold online, and if they are, those e-commerce sites will be hauled up for contempt, and the police officer in charge of an area will be responsible for any violation of the new rules. So it all actually sounds pretty good on paper. The question is, can this Supreme Court order actually be implemented on the ground? We've already actually seen one member of parliament from the BJP this evening saying that he's not going to listen to this Supreme Court order and will burst crackers as he pleases. He doesn't need a time limit for that. If that's what members of parliament are saying, I don't know what message they're sending to the common man. Well, we have Dr. Arvind Kumar joining us here in the studio, the head of pulmonology at Gangaram Hospital, someone who has pointed out the dangers of firecrackers when mixed with Delhi's smog and Delhi's pollution. Mr. Deshratan Nigam, who's a political analyst and Supreme Court lawyer, also joining us. Will be going across to our other panelists very shortly. But Dr. Arvind Kumar, how do you look at this ruling today? Is it something you welcome?
I think it's a landmark judgment. For one, it has clearly accepted, or it's an acceptance by the court of the plea that was made by the petitioners and also others who got involved as the case went along, that crackers have a really serious ill effect on the health of the people, and therefore it's a menace which slowly needs to be contained. So that's been accepted in principle. There was a request for complete ban by our side, but then Supreme Court has effectively actually given that, because the zero or no emission firecrackers actually don't exist at the moment, and all the ones which exist at the moment do not belong to this category. So effectively, it's manufacture, sale, consumption of all of them is banned. The key question is now acceptance or implementation on the ground, and that's where I think I would like to use this forum to make a passionate plea to the entire country that Supreme Court has shown us the way by this landmark judgment, and I think it's now for us, the people of this country, that in the interest of our health and the health of our children, we must abide by this ruling in letter as well as in spirit.
I want to also then take this to Gopal Shankar Narayanan, who is an advocate, of course, with the Supreme Court and whose son was one of the petitioners in this case. And Gopal Shankar Narayanan, you know, I'm sure like Dr. Arvind Kumar, you welcome the Supreme Court order. And as he was saying, effectively, this does amount to a ban on pretty much all firecrackers that exist today, because they're all high emission. And the green firecrackers, so to speak, don't really exist, do they?
Absolutely, I completely agree with Dr. Arvind, who's one of the coolest guys around. He came to the Supreme Court and made his own submissions, showcased to the court what doctors in the NCR feel and what their own personal experiences are over the last year. So I'm very grateful that the court has taken all that into consideration and recorded it. It's an absolute complete ban, Nidhi, of sale and manufacture of all the fireworks as we know it. So apart from, you know, the laddies that you're concerned about and your neighbor is so happy to use, we also have all the rockets and flower pots and everything else completely off the table now, because it's only the green fireworks and the low emission fireworks which are going to be permitted. And those are two categories which were mentioned by the Government of India in their affidavit. It's true, they don't exist today. And the manufacturers, all of whom were represented in the court, had strongly opposed this affidavit of the government, saying it doesn't exist. What are we supposed to do? Well, the court has said, we'll try and ensure that your livelihood continues. Go ahead and try and manufacture these, and then get the clearance from the PESO before you go out and start utilizing it. So the 8 to 10 o'clock curfew, the question of SHO's responsibility, all those things will kick in only once these fireworks are out there and certified by PESO. So we are very, very happy. The kids are very happy.
And just to tell our viewers, PESO is basically the environmental agency that, or the agency that's supposed to be certifying, in a sense, these crackers.
It's the Petroleum Explosive Safety Organization.
Yeah, to basically look at whether, you know, these meet
which
those standards.
moderates and
But you know, the biggest concern today, Vimlendhu Jha, is how is this court order going to be implemented? It might be seen as an important landmark ruling, but when I look at some of the things that the court has said today, for instance, one of course is the 8 to 10 p.m. Time limit. It will be a miracle, frankly, if people are going to follow that. Also, allowing crackers to be burst only in designated spots. I mean, I swear that will be a miracle if that happens. I'm a bit worried, and are you, that on the ground implementing this is going to be quite a challenge?
Well, actually, this is
absolutely.
Sorry, that's for
first understand
Vimlendhu.
that the job of our
Sorry,
judiciary is not governance.
Yeah, sorry, Vimlendhu, go ahead.
Sorry.
So, at the end of the day, Supreme Court is not the governance body. At the end of the day, the governance is the responsibility of the legislature and the executive. A lot of things that's actually been told, that's actually in the judgment today, is something that's been there for years together, for decades together. Last year also, we actually had a ban on sale of firecrackers, but we actually next morning we saw Delhi air quality, PM 2.5 level almost hitting 29 times worse than the permissible limit in that sense. So as you rightly said, the idea is not for the Supreme Court to really transact the rule. It can make a law, it can pass a judgment, but unless and until there is a political will, unless and until the central government and the respective state governments take this and understand the emergency of it, because we are actually talking about a public health emergency. If 1 million children, 10 lakh children are actually born prematurely, die prematurely, there are 1.5 million people who are dying right now, then the question of right to livelihood is a secondary question. Right to life and right to breath is more fundamental a question, and our government should actually take this as their responsibility, which they do not. And as Gopal would also tell you, that there were 10 other things in the petition, and it is not just about firecrackers. At the end of the day, these children who actually filed this petition, or thousands and thousands of children who actually have been participating in this thing called Say No to Firecrackers, they understand that every second child has asthma. So now the main challenge for all of us, including the citizens, is to understand how grim the situation is. It's not a question of environment and romance and romantics. It's a question of public health. It's a question of public safety. It's a question of how do we actually transact this on ground, alongside several other things that's also mandated in law.
Absolutely.
Many of these things, be it noise pollution,
and,
be it
but when
presence
you're
of
talking
sulfur,
about
be it
political
unregulated firework industry, all this should have been regulated.
Absolutely, but when you're talking about political will to implement a judgment like this, I was talking about a BJP MP who said he's not going to listen to this order. This is Chintamani Malviya, who has said, I will burst crackers only when I finish my puja. You can't set time limits on festivals. Such restrictions were not there even in Mughal times. I mean, I don't know how he knows that. But anyway, Mr. Nigam, the other thing I think also the Supreme Court verdict has done today is that it's kind of demolished this theory that certainly a section of the right wing was seeing as some kind of anti-Hindu conspiracy against Diwali. If you look at the order today, it's about firecrackers, period. It's about firecrackers across festivals, weddings, across, whether it's Diwali, Christmas, New Year's, etc. So can that debate finally come to a close, that this was some kind of sort of anti-Hindu conspiracy?
It is not going to close. Let me
You still think so?
Yeah. Reason being that every time such kind of judgment, such kind of controversy or judgment, I agree with the judgment in the first place. comes at the time of Diwali only, and then it disturbs the entire cycle. I wish it had come somewhere in February or so that the firecracker industry could have, aligned itself with the green crackers and everything. Therefore, the issue of implementation would come here into the picture. Now, look at what court said and clarified. Court has clarified that this firecracker ban or regulation, as I call it, prima facie conclusion based on available research. It is not the conclusive determination of the court given the inadequate information on pollution and allied aspects before it. So, this is not the last word you are hearing.
No,
in
it's
this.
not. In fact,
Therefore,
the fight is going on in the court for a complete ban
and there
on
is
crackers.
a possibility of some relaxation or change in near future also, let me tell you, because this is not the conclusive determination. Court itself says because of inadequate research and studies before it. But on the whole, what I feel is that they've tried to balance the tradition and the environment and health out here, and maybe this year it may not be implemented, but the firecracker industry will align with it for the next year to develop some kind of,
But you would admit it doesn't help when members of parliament make statements saying
no,
that
he
they're
should
going
have avoided. No, I'm very clear
it is
on.
a Supreme Court order,
and
yeah.
but there is also a important thing. I don't know how the 8 to 10 time period has been arrived at, because we know that the crackers are burst after the puja timings, and whether the puja timings, I'm not aware, comes before 10 or not. That has to be seen, because that aspect should have been kept in mind, because I am not very sure what was the scientific basis of arriving at between 8 to 10.